Hi, welcome to another Making Sense with Delyse. And today, in this video, we're going to talk about the strategy of control that happens in relationships and what you can do to work on moving out of control and into a more equal, reciprocal relationship. Control erodes trust in a relationship. It can also be used to control. For example, if your partner needs to know where you are at all times in order to trust you, this is not going to produce more trust. A controlling partner typically feels that they have the right to know more than they actually do. And they trap you in some ways and themselves with the justification that if you're not doing anything wrong, then you shouldn't mind letting me know. Perhaps the bigger question might be is why assume that your partner is doing something wrong? The presence of suspicion, mistrust, and this sort of police-like presence crosses personal boundaries. Now, it's important to say at this point, even though it can be hard to really get this, is that no one else can actually control you unless they lock you in a room and those extreme kinds of behaviors. However, because we have needs for connection and relationship, we often can give in to a controlling partner in order to keep the relationship. Here are some things that you can begin to notice in your relationship and notice within yourself and begin to work on and sometimes get help to work on it. And there are 4 ways in which you can work on it. Number 1 is noticing when your request becomes a demand, when you are unable to accept a different viewpoint or when your partner is saying no. It's not controlling to have a request, but it is easy to become caught up with having to have that met, which then leads to us being forceful about it and self-righteous and using any number of means to make your partner deliver on that request. Once we have stopped listening or only listen in order to use that to continue to put pressure on them, we are no longer requesting, but trying to control the outcome. Sometimes, for sure, you want your perspective understood fully, and it may take a few discussions to get that and negotiate. But if there isn't 2 perspectives involved, there is no negotiation. Okay, so number 2, notice and become conscious of absolutes. So an example of absolutes here are, I never want such and such to happen again, or I'm never going to let somebody do such and such ever again. And often those kinds of feelings that are sometimes unconscious as well as conscious come from our past and come from our past experience for sure. And whatever happened in the past was painful. But interestingly, A common absolute I hear is no one is ever going to control me. Because often people with controlling tendencies grew up with parents who were controlling. So when we think this way, we will more easily feel anger and resentful when those things happen. Plus, we don't build up any resilience. So if you find yourself having a reaction in this way where you're never going to let this happen, let's take an example of criticism. And you're angry and want to stop the person because you're never going to let anyone do that. Instead, think about, how can I respond differently to being criticized, rather than trying to control it out of existence, which quite frankly is impossible. So number 3, really see your partner as a person who has rights to time, space, and their experience. Notice when you are deciding what your partner is feeling and thinking, regardless of what they say. Determining their experience for them is both superior and an invasion of their person. When we are concerned with not being controlled, we can sometimes feel controlled by somebody's mere existence, because their opinions and thoughts and feelings and so on that's different from ours can feel threatening, and therefore experience as a kind of control over you, as an invasion of your experience. Of course it's not, but because it is experienced that way, then you will need to control their thoughts, feelings, and experience in order to not feel controlled by them. The only person you have a right to have any control over is yourself. You are in charge of how you respond, how you behave, how you feel, and your choices. So number 4, and last but not least, identify and deal with, work through the insecurities or fears that you have that cause you to control your partner. When we are trying to control our partner, we are making them responsible for our experience and the insecurities that we feel. Common insecurities relate to feelings of not being good enough, uncertain, feelings of failure and imperfection, and fear of aloneness. You will not be able to make your world or your partner do everything so you don't experience those feelings. It takes courage and bravery to let go of control and face these feelings that feel very vulnerable. But if you do, you and the people in your life will be happier. By practicing negotiation or deeply listening and understanding each other, then your communication will become free of control. So thank you for listening to this video, and I hope that it's given you some things to think about and to work on around control. Until next time.